Welcome to Talking Brains. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Sarkis at stephaniesarkis.com. I'm the author of Gaslighting, Recognize Manipulative and Emotionally Abusive People and Break Free. On this 20th episode of Talking Brains, I'll be talking about why a gaslighting narcissistic relationship is so devastating. Please click the subscribe button and give Talking Brains a 5-star rating. It's appreciated. Enjoy the podcast. So I wrote an article on Psychology Today on my blog called Why is a Gaslighting Narcissist Relationship So Devastating? So we know that they are devastating, but we don't always know why, and we don't always know the extent of what that relationship has done to us. So I'm going to delineate for you, break down a little bit about why they impact us in different areas. And this can be anything from eroding your trust in yourself to eroding your trust in other people, changing your entire worldview. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So first, gaslighters and narcissists harm your self-esteem and your view of the world. When we're born, we tend to have this view usually that the world is good. Our parents will always protect us. And along the way, that vision of what the world is like changes. And that's what people refer to usually as when they realize they had lost their innocence. Now, that could be that you grew up with parents that were neglectful, substance abusers. You could have grown up with parents that didn't protect you. You could have gone through a natural disaster, and that changes your worldview. Could be that your parent died when you were younger. That changes your view that your parents will always be around to protect you. Now, sometimes this changes as we get older. So usually it's a current event like 9/11. In some cases, Kennedy being shot. Those are when people realize that they have come to terms with the fact or noticed that their parents aren't able to protect them all the time. Now, sometimes what happens too is when you're in a gaslighter narcissist relationship, you still feel like people are basically good people, that they will always be looking out for your best interest, especially if you formed a love relationship with someone, because gaslighters love bomb you. So we've talked about before on the podcast and on the blog that gaslighters will make you feel like you're the most wonderful thing in the world and how great you are, and they've never felt like this about anybody. And then once you get hooked into the relationship, then you fall off that pedestal they've put you on, and it's a long way down. And once you fall off the pedestal, you can't get back on. Whatever you do, the gaslighter, it's still not good enough for them. So that is because they do something called splitting, which means they either view you as all good or all bad. They have no gray areas. So again, the gaslighter reels you in. Once they got you hooked, they start doing the abusive behavior. So we're going to talk a little bit about not only how you change your view of how people are generally good, but again, how they also erode your trust in other people. So again, if you're in a relationship with someone that is a gaslighter or narcissist, or if it's been years since you've been in one, it still may be impacting you in ways that you're not consciously aware of. So we're going to talk a little bit about those different ways. So you notice that I'm using the pronoun he throughout this. So that's just standard journalistic mode or style. I'm not saying that women can't be gaslighters, because women can be gaslighters and narcissists too. Statistically, men are more likely to be gaslighters and narcissists, but again, women can be too. You use he as the default pronoun. So again, gaslighters, narcissists change your view of people being generally good. So again, if you've had trauma, if there's something significant that happened in your life, it changes that worldview that people are basically good. So when you have that view change, it's quite a shock. Again, here's a person that told you they loved you, and then you turn into this monster, this person you didn't recognize. And when people are narcissists or gaslighters, you get to a point in the relationship where you catch that mask that they have coming off, and you see who they really are underneath. And that can be really terrifying, because it's a person that does not have any kind of emotion behind their facial expression. It's very scary. So when that happened, you saw that person, you saw someone that not only didn't have your best interest in mind, but that you were the furthest thing on their mind, that they really didn't care about your feelings or who you were, or if they actually had love for you. So when you look at a narcissist or gaslighter, love is not something that they share with other people. So there's love towards the self, which is actually a really deep insecurity, but also it's not a love like a reciprocal empathic love. It's a cognitive form of empathy. So you have someone say to you, "How was your day?" and you tell them, and they go, "Oh, that's nice. I'm glad to hear that." But there's no emotion behind it. So it really changes your view, especially when you've been in an abusive relationship, your idea that people are basically good. And that's part of healing too, is this why going to counseling after the ending of these relationships is so important, because particularly you talk about how this changed your worldview and how to rebuild that idea that people are basically good. They erode your trust in yourself. So part of a gaslighter strategy is to make you think that you're not capable of functioning without them. So this is an essential part of what gaslighters do. They want you to think that you cannot be independent. They'll tell you that you're crazy, or that what you saw and heard isn't really what happened. In a lot of cases, they'll hide your stuff and tell you that you're irresponsible for losing it. They'll tend to hide things like sentimental items, like wedding rings, expensive items, and then they'll tell you that, well, you can't even keep track of your wedding ring. How can I trust you to do other stuff? And that makes you feel like you're going crazy, and it makes you feel like you can't trust yourself. And that's exactly what the gaslighter wants you to think. They want you to think that they are the only source that you can rely on for functioning normally. And again, as we know, that's not true, but when you're in the relationship and this has been a gradual increase in abusive behavior, you can get into this trap without even realizing it. The gaslighter keeps their narcissistic supply around, which is you, by telling you that you're the only one that's crazy and that you need to rely on them. So you may start feeling like you are perceiving things incorrectly. You see the gaslighter do something and they tell you this didn't happen, and you start wondering, well, I've never really experienced somebody saying that to me before, so maybe I am having some issues. Or gaslighters will also use medical conditions against you. So they'll say, well, I know that, you just went to the doctor and they said that you have diabetes, and I'm wondering if, you think you saw that because, your blood sugar's low or something. They'll blame it on medical things. That's why it's so important when you go to the doctor, if you're in a gaslighting narcissistic relationship, that you meet with the doctor alone to talk about things. The gaslighter narcissist will usually demand to be in the room with you because they don't want you sharing information about the abusive relationship with your doctor, but make sure that you're able to meet with a doctor on your own. That may mean that you go with a trusted friend to the doctor so that the gaslighter can't intercede or get into the examination room. You can also tell the doctor, call them up and tell them that you do not want this person coming back with you, that they may show up at the appointment, but you want them to bar that person from coming back in the exam room with you. So also, again, when you bring someone else with you, a trusted friend or family member, that person can act as a buffer and help kind of keep the narcissist away. So again, really important that you go to a doctor's appointment by yourself, because again, gaslighters will use medical issues as a way to blame you for or lie to you and tell you that you're not perceiving things correctly. So also, again, they tell you that you're crazy. Other people think you're crazy, that your friends and family think you're crazy, again, with the goal of isolating you. So again, you don't trust yourself. You don't trust that the things you're thinking and the things you're doing are really what you should be doing. You second guess yourself all the time. So also, they erode your trust in other people. So I've worked with quite a few people that felt like they had a pretty good relationship with people, that they immediately trusted people until they were proven otherwise. But now they automatically distrust people. Part of that is, again, you get in this relationship with this person that you thought loved you, and they start treating you terribly. And again, this is a gradual thing. I'm not sure if people that haven't been in this understand how gradual this process is. That it's not that the gaslighter just flips a switch and all of a sudden acts like this. This is a gradual thing. So when you have people tell you, well, that can't be, how that person is in a relationship. They're so nice to the outside world. Well, yeah, but they're not in a relationship with them. So that makes you distrust others too, that you're reaching out for help. And sometimes your friends and family say, but, well, they're so nice. How could that person treat you like that? Because a lot of gaslighters and narcissists are really good at maintaining a great image to the public. They're very focused and invested on what they look like and what you look like and how the public perceives them. So anything that would make them not look as good, they abhor. So really important that we continue to talk about what you're going through in the relationship. And again, therapy can be a really helpful part of this, because you're talking to a neutral third party about what's going on, especially if you feel like other people aren't listening. Now, you may have another situation where your friends and family really don't like the gaslighter because they see him for who he is. But sometimes your friends and family or other people in the public, they they think that the gaslighter is just absolutely fine. So they're very good at fooling people. So when they erode your trust in other people, it also includes you start distrusting your friends because the gaslighter says, oh, well, your friends were flirting with me, or I could, if you don't shape up, I could go out with your friend anytime because she said that she's available to go out with me. So they will constantly tell you about how their ex was better than you, and that, you know, they never had these issues in relationships before you because their relationship with their ex was just fine, which is usually a lie. So actually it's almost always a lie. So, you know, you start eyeing your friends suspiciously because you think that maybe they're going to be hitting on your partner because your partner's lied and told you that they're going after your partner. So also it makes you look at people you don't know suspiciously. So when you've been set up by the gaslighter narcissist to think that people are always constantly wanting the narcissist or gaslighter, even someone that's just being friendly, like a server at a restaurant, you may start interpreting it as this person's trying to hit on my partner. Because again, the gaslighter narcissist kind of brainwashed you into thinking that everybody wants them, when in fact that's the exact opposite of what's going on. So one of the things that I thought was interesting is I went to a conference with a speaker that specializes in domestic violence. Her name escapes me. She's out of Orlando, and she said one of the activities she would do with survivors of domestic violence was to go out on a social outing. I think the example she gave is they go to a ceramic pottery place. And they get to know each other as friends. And she said it was really powerful because many women that had survived domestic violence situations were very wary of developing relationships with other women because they were told that other women were better than they were, that other women were constantly flirting with their partner. Their partner would constantly cheat. That's another sign of a gaslighter narcissist. And so women in domestic violence situations tend to start not only distrusting their partner, but also distrusting just women in their lives. So when the specialist went and took women to a social activity, it was really powerful because women were reconnecting and realizing that their gaslighter narcissist had shaped their relationships towards other women. And so they got to know other women as friends, and it changed the view of their own gender, and also made people realize how much their abusive partner had changed their view of friendships. And that, again, the gaslighting narcissist's whole goal is to make you as isolated as possible. So also they hurt your relationships with your friends and family. So we talked about splitting. This is when a gaslighter narcissist sees people as either all good or all bad. There's no gray area. There's no subtleties. Now, people aren't all good or all bad. We all have a mixture of different characteristics. But they use this splitting to pit you against your friends and family. They'll tell you that your friends and family are bad and that they treat them poorly. But when you ask what specifically happened, the gaslighter narcissist just gets mad at you and can't come up with something solid to tell you why that's the way it is. So they also tell you that, oh, your sister said this terrible thing about you, because again, they want to pit you against people. So what this does is, again, you're in a relationship with someone that you thought loved you, so you start distancing yourself from friends and family. You say to yourself, I can't believe my sister would say that. I can't believe this person would say that. And again, that's exactly what the gaslighter wants you to do. They want you to get distanced from people because they want you to be giving 100% of your attention to them. And again, it's still never enough attention for them. So also, they make you not want to be in a relationship again. And who could really blame you, right? So at the beginning of your relationship, you get love bombed, but then you get discarded, right? You get devalued. You're pushed off that pedestal by the gaslighter. They treat you terribly. They cheat. They may go off with another narcissistic supply. So they find another relationship. Usually they've got another relationship going during yours. And when that narcissistic supply runs out, they come back and try to hoover you. And that's named after the vacuum cleaner, because they try to suck you back into the relationship. So what that does is it really makes you gun shy about going into another relationship. And this is a completely normal way to feel, especially when you've been with someone that's this abusive. So what happens is sometimes people tend to take a little bit of a break between that relationship and whether they want to start dating again. Some people feel that they really don't want to date for a long time. But one of the other things that happens is there are red flags when you're dating. And the one is, if the gaslighter narcissist is on a date with you, they will talk a lot about themselves. They won't really ask you about yourself. But when they do, and you give them an answer that they're doing cognitive empathy, they're not really giving you any kind of really empathic answer. They don't really care. So also, if they show up excessively late. Now, I'm not talking like I have ADHD and I know sometimes we run late, but this is just blatantly not having any concern for your schedule. If you have ADHD, you show up maybe 15, 20, half hour late, but this is when you show up like 2 hours late to something. And also, if their profile, if you're doing online dating, their profile does not match them at all, that's, I call that a magenta flag. So when you are first going out in the dating world, you may look so much at the red flags that you aren't able to see the positives that are going on. So again, this can improve over time. I mean, sometimes it just takes time. You've been through a big loss if you've gotten out of a narcissistic gaslighting relationship. You're getting to know yourself again. You're reconnecting with family and friends and your children again. So it's normal to have a lot of trepidation when you're going into dating situations. Again, this is where counseling is really helpful to talk about your feelings of concern that you meet someone that is not like this again. So also gaslighters, narcissists do a lot of parental alienation. So they see their children as extensions of themselves. They see them as kind of like mini-me's. And they don't see any difference between themselves and their children, except when children start doing the no's, like around 2, 3 years old. You are supposed to say no to your parent when you're a child because you're learning how to individuate or be on your own from your parents, because eventually that's what you're going to do as an adult. So gaslighters can't handle that because they demand 100% loyalty at all times. And they see anytime a child defies them that it's they go into narcissistic rage. So a gaslighter will tell their kids, horrible things about you, to have the kids' attention all themselves, and also to punish, quote unquote, the child for setting boundaries with the parent by saying no. So the gaslighter narcissist really likes to rain on other people's parade. So if your kid's feeling good or you're feeling good, or they do this especially on birthdays and holidays, they'll ruin it somehow because they don't like other people being happy. They want people to divert all their attention to the narcissist to make the narcissist happy. So, and I use gaslighter and narcissist interchangeably. So you may have, this thing where the gaslighter even says to you when you try to leave, I'm going to turn the kids against you. They may be very blatant about it. So that's another side effect of this, is that they may be feeding information to your kids. They may have poor boundaries and talk about their issues in their relationship with you. So really important that, again, you get counseling, your kids go to counseling. And also, I'd recommend that you listen to the podcast episode that we have with Jeremy Gase, Dr. Gase. He is a parent coordinator, parent consultant, and he specializes in collaborative divorce. And he talks about how to co-parent with someone that's difficult. It helps to have a really detailed parenting plan that says exactly what the parameters are, what times you're going to exchange your children, who can be around the children, who can't. And it's really important to have those boundaries written in an official document, because gaslighters are really good at violating boundaries. So also, gaslighters make you forget who you are. So you may have had a job that you're passionate about and interests and hobbies that gave you a sense of accomplishment, but the gaslighter belittles those interests and your career because he sees them as a threat to you devoting all your attention to him. And they can force you to quit your job or force you to work at their place of business, sometimes without pay, just so they can keep an eye on you. And they make you financially dependent on them. Now, that's a form of abuse. That's called economic financial abuse. So sometimes when people get out of these relationships, they realize that they're not really sure what their likes are or their wants, because they were told that the gaslighter narcissist wants and likes are most important. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time just to explore a little bit about what you're interested in. What did you used to like to do? Being creative, maybe start painting. That's a great way to express your feelings. Start doing some creative writing or journaling. Get to know yourself again. And that does take a little bit of time, because the gaslighter's whole motive was to strip you of your identity so you could focus completely on them and their needs. So I know I've told you all about the negative things about gaslighters and narcissists. I do want to tell you that there is hope, that I've seen people get out of these relationships and go on to live healthy, fulfilling lives. And they learned a lot of information from being in these relationships. And later on, they got into healthy relationships. So there is, again, a grieving process when you leave this relationship. So if you listen to the podcast right before this episode, where I talk about how to rebuild, talks a lot about how to establish your sense of self again, and that there is hope that things can get better. Yeah, it's really tough to leave. And in fact, in these relationships, people usually leave. They try to leave about 3 times before they leave for good. So also, when you leave the relationship, that can be when the relationship is at its most dangerous. So if you are concerned about your safety, I recommend that you contact, there's a National Domestic Violence Hotline. That's thehotline.org. I'll spell that out for you. It's THEHOTLINE.org, or 1-800-799-7233, or contact your local domestic violence shelter. Also, if you need pro bono legal services for domestic violence cases, pro bono means free of charge. There's a National Domestic Violence Directory of pro bono legal representation, and that's at probono.net/DV. That's D as in dog, V as in Victor, /OPPS guide /. So that's probono.net/DV/OPPS guide /. Or look up on Google National Domestic Violence Directory of Pro Bono Legal Representation. So, or also, because leaving these relationships and being in these relationships is so taxing emotionally and physically, if you're thinking about hurting yourself, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline or Lifeline. That's suicidepreventionlifeline.org, or their phone number is 1-800-273-8555. That line is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So again, there is hope in leaving these relationships. The more we're aware of how these relationships impact us, the more we can move on from them and build a healthy life. And I want to thank you for listening to this episode. And again, this is in written format on Psychology Today, and a little bit more abbreviated version of this podcast. So, and I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Sarkis at stephaniesarkis.com. I'm the author of Gaslighting, Recognize Manipulative and Emotionally Abusive People and Break Free. And please hit subscribe and give us a 5-star rating, and it's appreciated. And thank you, and have a great day. And things can get better.